Guy Littlejohn is no stranger to complete lifestyle transformations. Having lost his sports scholarship at uni due to discovering booze and partying, a story we all know quite well, he nearly sabotaged his relationship with his now wonderful wife Emma by burning the candle far too hard at both ends. Guy has now completely flipped 180'd that mindset and is a self-confessed Hyrox addict and functional fitness champion. He now gets to combine his passion of Hyrox and passion of functional fitness with his past commercial consulting goals via setting up Function B2B, which is a trailblazing network, events, commercial consulting business all in one, bringing together amazing people who have a similar mindset and want to build their pipelines as well as build their mindsets and their bodies for the better. Guy also has 5 years sobriety under his belt come January, and with my newly found love for sobriety myself, it seemed like the ideal opportunity to sit down with Guy and discuss all things lifestyle. Now, the idea of getting Guy on IDTV is we want authentic guidance from authentic people. Lifestyle changes are bloody difficult. Running a business is really hard. Being a freelancer is really hard, and developing your career is also really hard. But if you shift in lifestyle, it makes the latter a little bit easier to navigate. So Guy and I sat down, chatted all things hard, all things easier, all things lifestyle, mindset, etc, etc. So tune in. Hopefully you'll get to pick up some tips and tricks from regular people who have made big shifts in lifestyle for the better. Now let's get into it with Guy Littlejohn. Good morning, Guy. How are we doing?
Very well, thanks. You?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very good. I'm on my sugar come down from my pumpkin overload yesterday, but other than that, I'm all good. I don't think it's very conducive to a Hyrox diet, but it was certainly worth it at the time.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah, so that thank you for joining. And the reason for having you on is we had, hopefully you're in agreement, a cracking chat last week that left me pretty hyped about changes in our industry, changes in us, eases of ways of other people to get into lifestyle changes, which I think would be good, something good for us to talk about. And in terms of relevancy for our audience as freelancers, your audience as kind of business leaders, founders, etc., that kind of shift in approach to lifestyle is pretty massive in our industry at the moment. So I think it'd be really good for normal folk like us to put our spin on it, and if we can do it, then anyone else can, basically. So how does that sound as a chat from your side?
Really good. More than happy.
Good. Awesome. Okie doke. Well, let's talk about you and your road to where you're at now, which I think is safe to say fittest, healthiest you've ever felt ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Even comparing it to school and the early days of university, I would say that even a year ago, and I'll go back to get to that point, but even a year ago, I remember thinking I was fit, thinking I had mental clarity, and that's definitely progressed over the last sort of 12 months. But yeah, would you like me to sort of go back a few steps and build it forward?
Yeah, I want you to start at the gritty, grim Newcastle clubbing days and and take us right through the decades in a whistle stop to where we are now.
Okay, fabulous. So I went to university in 2008, which was up in the northeast, as you've just alluded to. And before that, at school, I was very into sport. Went to school 6 days a week, traveled all over the country playing rugby, tennis, squash, played five-a-side football or football every single lunchtime for like an hour and 20 minutes. Got involved in everything I possibly could. Golf with my family. Then came Newcastle. So I got a sports scholarship to university,
right?
Which is fancier than it sounds. I got sort of 50% off the fees for uni, but under the condition that I play 3 sports competitively for the uni, at second team or first team. So I went straight in, played tennis, squash, and rugby for the teams, and then sort of found this lifestyle that I hadn't really been privy to at a sort of small school in the sticks in Yorkshire.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so being really honest, the possibilities that then started to open up, I just took full advantage of, and very
Yeah.
quickly, in the sort of the halfway through the second year, lost that sports scholarship because but I didn't care.
Oof.
I didn't care at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a surprise to my parents who were paying the fees, but I just
Yeah.
ultimately didn't really care. So I suppose the um, slippery slope started there. So that's where, you stop really caring about other people's feelings, bank balances.
Yeah.
And then university continued. My appetite for socializing continued, got bigger and got bigger and bigger and bigger. I actually dropped out of uni in the Northeast and then finished off in Yorkshire. So I finished off
Okay.
university in Yorkshire. Um, I suppose in the third year, I went to do a placement year, which my dad had got me at a digital agency in Leeds. And
Nice.
after about 4 weeks, I decided it wasn't for me. So I think partly because it was in a marketing role. I'm involved in marketing functions now, and we deliver some marketing services. And I knew that doing that type of role in that type of agency wasn't for me quite quickly. So some clarity of thought, but really it was probably I just wanted to get back to partying in Newcastle. So I then went
Yeah.
probably, and then I went back to the Northeast, did some work in sales in hospitality. So I was booking out. Um, or I was booking sort of lawyers and solicitors into um, dining experiences at lunchtime for their clients. And with that came hosting them in the evenings when they came back with their families. So just this drinking culture just continued, and this partying culture sort of continued. Um, the opportunity when I finished uni then came very quickly to go down to London and work in sales. So I moved down there in 2012, and I was in the world of advertising. And
Nice.
if you were, and I think we spoke about this last week, there was this mantra that if you were at your desk on a Friday afternoon and weren't in a restaurant or at a bar with clients, then essentially you weren't doing your job properly. And there was
Yeah,
actually a
yeah.
phrase for Thursday nights, which was just called Media Thursdays, where
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody just used to go out and
Yeah.
have a few too many, and but you were working, you were doing your job, Um,
Hmm.
so that certainly continued. The sport sort of dipped in and out. Maybe joined a gym for a couple of months, never really went. Played five-a-side football a couple of times, but always putting it off just because consistently out entertaining friends or colleagues or associates or whatever I might have been doing at that time. And so that sort of continued on and off. And I was very career driven. I did very well. So I got to quite a senior business development role as a director very quickly. That was sort of a natural ability I think, to charm people, but then to sell the product. And I did a lot of work on that. And I was a student, but I was really only there part time every week, which is why I know the business model that we now run for our clients can work
Yeah.
because I was doing it. I was being successful, hitting revenue targets, getting promotions, leaving companies, calling up a recruiter, getting a job a couple of weeks later. So I had a sort of a path like this in terms of the career. Um, but London eventually, after sort of 8 years in and out, I had a little bit of time in Leeds, but 8 years in and out, I started to realize that I needed a lifestyle change. So
Yeah.
I moved to the Northwest in 2019. Manchester was the chosen city, I guess, outside of London. And I'd started, I think, to get better then. Started to make some changes to my, I suppose, drinking habits, definitely.
Yeah.
Long periods of abstinence. Well, I say long periods. I'm 5 years now, but there was like
Amazing.
6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks periods, particularly around key family events, so like weddings and things like that. So you can tell that I was, the relationships, alcohol had started to change the relationships that I had,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
with those closest to me. It had caused me some problems in the past. It had got me jobs. It had got me kicked out of jobs as well.
Yeah.
So I had this sort of love-hate relationship with it. And um, about a week after I landed in the Northwest, I actually met my wife by,
Right. Okay.
by chance. And that's a story for another time, but it is quite interesting. I met her by chance, and she used to come over to my flat in Manchester. She lives out where we live now. And then fast forward 6 months to early 2020, I went to Ireland, which was supposed to be for about 24 hours, and I was there probably over 72. And I'd fallen quite hard for my now wife quite quickly.
Right.
And I remember her, a version of this story anyway. It won't be completely accurate, but when I woke up the next day in a hotel room somewhere, she was there and she just looked at me, and the look that she gave me, I just knew that she was gone. So
Ooh.
I said then, and it was the 16th of Jan. I said, "That's it. I'm done. I'm done with,
Mm.
done with booze. I'm done with it all. The party lifestyle. I'm
Yeah.
wasting. Even though I'd been pretty successful and had what I think people would class as being a fairly successful career up to then, I knew that I could unlock some more potential in myself. So uh, that was the last time I had a drink. It was the 16th
Jeez.
of Jan 2020.
Yeah.
So coming up to 5 years in a few
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
Um, and 3 months later, I'd launched the business. Incorporated the company coincidentally on the 16th of April.
Right.
Sort of
4 months or
yeah,
3 months, 4 months in. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And then I I just never looked back. The clarity that I had, and the clients that then came rolling in, I suppose the credit that I was being given on a personal level, and then I was seeing it from a sort of a business and a financial performance level.
Yeah.
I never looked back, and the journey with health and fitness probably restarted. So bearing in mind, I'd done nothing really. I'd certainly had
Yeah.
to run around a lot for
Yeah.
over 10 years,
Yeah.
10, maybe
The
12
heart
years.
rate hadn't been challenged for a while.
Not really, but I got back into the tennis. So
Yeah.
my we bought a house quite quickly here where we are now, just in Cheshire, about 18 miles away from Warrington. Sorry, from Manchester, a few miles outside of Warrington. And I started playing tennis again and loved it. So
Yeah.
I had a year of playing tennis. One of the tennis guys played some football. He said, "You want to come play football?" And I play five-side football twice a week. And
Nice.
then just before we got married in May, well, 6 months before we got married in May 2023, I went for a PT. So I'd had the business for 2.5 years, was playing
Yeah.
tennis, playing five-a-side football, not doing any running or anything outside of those things. But it's fun, isn't it? It's enjoyable,
Yeah.
that type of sport, that group sport.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
people, most people do that, and that's a nice sort of step in. That's a comfort level as well, because you can hide a little bit,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
particularly on the football pitch.
Yeah.
Um, uh, got a PT, came back from the wedding, and I just thought, this isn't all. It's not doing it for me as much
Mm.
as it was. Why am I playing five-a-side football? Why am I playing tennis.
Yeah.
The purpose of why I went to the gym when I was, 19, 20, 21, which was essentially to look good in a t-shirt. I didn't really care about those things anymore. I wasn't
Yeah.
really that fussed. So I was going to the gym for just, they didn't have an end goal. None of it had an end
Yeah.
goal. And I think through building the business for the previous sort of 2.5, 3 years, there was always end goals. We delivered we delivered on an
Yeah.
outcome, we delivered on an objective, and you had that sort of that growth mindset. Have to enjoy all even the unsexy bits of building a business, the
Yeah. Yeah.
unsexy bits of working with clients. And I spoke to somebody about that who I'd met at the gym, and he said to me, "Have you heard of functional fitness? Have you heard of HIT?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." "Oh, is that where you all get in a class?" And at the time, even then, this
Yeah.
is 15 months ago, I was like,
Yeah.
not really for me. And he said, "But there's this sport that's come out of it called Hyrox." And he said, "I think you'd really, really like it." So what I know about you with the business and that growth mindset, you have to really work and chip away at becoming essentially a bit of a hybrid athlete,
Yeah.
everyday athlete. I would call myself, and anybody that takes Hyrox or CrossFit or triathlon or something seriously, they're sort of every
Yeah.
day
Yeah.
a full-time something and then a part-time, person that sort of works out. And I went to my first Hyrox-based class at the end of September last year. So, 13 months ago or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Went in, thought I was really fit.
Yeah.
Realised I wasn't. Thought I'd been playing five-a-side football. I'm in not bad
Yeah.
shape. No, I just realised I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I had an incredibly humbling 45, 50 minutes in that class. But the style of training and the jumping from one piece of equipment to another, to another, to another, really appealed to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then went back to another one a few days later when I wasn't quite as sore. And then that started to snowball quite quickly into 2 or 3 classes a week. And then all of a sudden you get to sort of December, and we've booked our first Hyrox at the back end of January this year in Manchester. And my wife has
Yeah.
joined me at classes. She absolutely loves it.
Amazing.
Fits into my lifestyle. Of getting up. I always got up early anyway, so we go to the classes at like 6 a.m. and that's continued
Yeah.
to this day. And we've now competed in 3 Hyrox each. We're doing one on Sunday in Birmingham. We're going to Stockholm to
Jesus.
do one in December. We're doing another one
Nice.
together a year on at the end
Yeah.
of January in Manchester. And during that time, me and my health and fitness journey has evolved to the stage where I'm very particular about my nutrition. Um, I've got a bit of a hack for it, but I'm very particular about it. When I was in America, I had a gene methylation test, so I now supplement based on what my body can and can't ingest. It's a version of biohacking, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I take all of that very seriously. So hopefully that
Yeah.
a bit of a story, a bit of a flow.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you mentioned that test actually when we were chatting last time, and it was what's the name of the doctor again?
Gary Brecker.
That's the one. Yeah, yeah. So I've seen him just as kind of a in passing on TikTok, podcast, etc. But go a bit more into what that test is, because I'm intrigued to know how that kind of has been a partnership of your lifestyle choices now.
Yeah, so I first heard of Gary Brecker at the beginning of the year. I think he was on a Joe Rogan podcast, and he's been on 2 or 3
Okay.
times. And at the time, I was listening to Joe Rogan just because of the variety of different guests, and it was quite interesting
Yeah,
how
yeah,
you pick different things based on whatever.
yeah.
Um, and uh, it just sort of caught a spark in me. Then I realized Gary Brecker had his own podcast called The Ultimate Human, which I also quite
Ah,
like.
okay.
And
Yeah, yeah.
essentially, he set up his business. And Brecker is Brecka. He's an
Yeah, I'll
American
put
guy.
that in the
Yeah,
link.
he set up his business because he was working for a firm that dealt with, I think it was an insurance firm that dealt with payouts from the death, almost post-mortem. And what he was
Right.
doing when he was going in there, into the morgue essentially, was he was looking at what people were dying from
Right.
and what prescriptions they were on to supposedly help with what they were suffering from.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And what he started to see was a pattern in that these prescription drugs were not helping.
Right. Okay.
So he started to look into the human biology, and he made a connection between the stomach and disease,
Yeah.
inflammation, everything from arthritis to depression.
Right.
So he then created a genetic methylation test, which is a fancy word for saying how your stomach absorbs
Right. Okay.
nutrients, so what you put into it from food and how
Yeah.
it, I suppose, digests foods and what it can and can't absorb and digest, and what you
Get you.
need more of and what you need less of. So each person, everybody has a different genetic makeup, and that is exactly the
Mm.
same with the stomach. So
Right.
his practice, and there are other practices that have genetic methylation testing in the UK and in Europe now. So you don't need to go over to Florida and have a test.
Yeah.
Um, you do a swab test, and then a few weeks later, they send you a report, and
Right.
it tells you the breaks in your gene structure within your methylation system. I had a certain break or a couple of breaks. My wife did the same test, she had different breaks. So we now supplement based on those breaks. So what our bodies can and can't ingest, what they need, what they can
Yeah.
absorb, what they get rid of that they shouldn't get rid of, what they get rid of that they should get rid of, and the capacity in which it can take in nutrients from food.
Yeah.
Um, I feel really, really good on it. My
Cool.
wife has been life changing.
Wow. Okay.
So she had, for example, she did one of those intolerance tests at the beginning of the
Hmm.
year, and it told her that she was lactose intolerant. She now eats cheese whenever she
Right.
wants because
Jesus.
she is not intolerant to cheese. She
Yeah.
was not intolerant. She wasn't able to methylate certain acids found within lactose. So she now
Hmm.
supplements so that she can absorb those acids without making her sick.
Right. Okay.
So because she
Okay.
had a break in her gene system within her stomach. So it all sounds very, I don't know, a bit bougie and a bit woo woo, but
Yeah.
and things like, she had quite racing minds, so quite often she'd go to bed. A couple of hours later, she'd still be up thinking,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
thinking to herself, "That's all gone.
Jeez.
That's all gone."
Crikey.
She took a very small dosage of, um, to sort of help her with a bit of anxiety and things like that she had prescribed from the
Yeah.
doctors. That's gone.
Wow. God.
It's gone.
So is it all
All
about
supplements.
all about adding to your intake as opposed to taking out, or have you stopped eating certain things, taking certain things, or is it layering on top of what you have already?
Yeah, yeah. So there's certain things that just I stay away from, like
Yeah,
certain
yeah, yeah.
types of seed oils and things like that. That your body just can't ingest anything with folic acid in it, which is surprisingly coated on pretty much. It's coated on a lot of things, like
Right,
rice that you buy, pasta that you buy. Your body cannot ingest that at all. In
right,
America, it's everywhere. Here, it's a little. It's not as I suppose as well known that it's everywhere. But there's certain
right.
things that we were both not set up to be able to ingest. So we both supplement for some to essentially make our stomach 100% or it works at 100% capacity
Right.
now, where it wasn't before. It was sometimes it was at 40%. So actually,
Yeah,
lots
yeah.
of people will feel that they have a gluten intolerance, for example, but they don't. And if Gary Brett, I'm just stealing what he says, but sometimes it
Yeah, yeah.
affects you, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, yeah, that you don't have an
Hmm.
intolerance. If you have an intolerance to gluten, you are always consistently sick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not necessarily physically, but your body feels sick. If it's a sometimes thing, it's the genetic methylation.
Interesting.
It's
That's
not an
really interesting.
intolerance.
Yeah, yeah.
So
S
we've gone that far into it.
Yeah, which is pretty extreme, but
Mm.
it's it is interesting because it ties into so much around the gut health movement and
Yeah,
the investigation into that, and I'm sure it was Gary Brecker and a couple of those others who I've seen who have said that we are not even at the tip of the iceberg in terms of understanding the link between the stomach or the gut basically being our second brain,
and every
and
absolutely.
and yeah, and adding that, what you add into there ultimately affects up here, and
Yeah,
we haven't got a
absolutely.
clue really.
No, no, absolutely not, absolutely not. And like I said, it's certainly been sort of life changing for my wife. And she's off all prescription drugs that she was before, and even there was a small amount, but and yeah, the link. I mean, he's the guy that fixed Gary Brecker is. He fixed Dana White, so the guy that owns UFC. Um,
Oh, okay.
he had
Yeah,
some
yeah,
huge blood pressure problems. He had really high cholesterol, loads of other things. It'd be a very simple Google search for everybody. Gary Brecker did some
yeah.
work with him, did a methylation test, started supplementing based on what the methylation test showed, and
Jeez.
all of those things have gone away instantly. So these cholesterol pills and things that the doctors give to our parents, our uncles and aunties when they get sort of a little bit
Mm,
older, he basically says you don't need them. So him and all these um, uh, genetic people, or the people that are basing their research around the stomach, like you said,
yeah.
they, they don't believe in prescription drugs.
Wow.
And they essentially say you don't need them, but people have had eczema all over their body and no doctor can find out why.
Yeah.
And then you start supplementing, and there's videos of people start supplementing based on their sort of breaks in their stomach, and the eczema goes away, arthritis,
Yeah, yeah.
everything goes away.
Insane.
It's all, like you said, it's all connected to your stomach. So that's something that we've sort of dipped our toe into, and we might continue to progress more, but not
Yeah.
at the, we don't want it to hold us back or pigeonhole us too much.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but, so we do go and have the odd thing, I guess, that would maybe not be in the plan, but
Yeah.
it's very rare. There's certain things that we try and stay away from just because we know it doesn't
Yeah.
make us feel good. It makes me
Yeah.
perform. I, I have to. You don't sleep as well, therefore you don't work as well the next day. You don't work out as well
Hmm.
the next day. It's almost, it's just a cycle that I just can't get my head around. Why anybody would put something in their body that essentially is known to poison them.
Yeah, yeah. But I think something interesting that we've talked about as well, kind of in our last conversation, is whilst it all sounds pretty extreme and American tests, etc. But when you dial it back, it's still you and I aren't Silicon Valley billionaires. This is accessible stuff to normal people who are solo founders, freelancers,
Hmm.
small business owners, big business, whoever you, or just someone who just wants to excel themselves in their chosen career path. So I think something super relatable to your road to Hyrox and biohacking and stomach hacking and supplement hacking, all that kind of stuff, is something that we can all, a lot of us can relate to. So I was
Mm.
in London Media Thursday style. I was working for the Daily Express and probably came across you a lot, trying to
Mm.
woo you whilst you're trying to woo the client.
Mm.
Back in those days, sinking pints, sinking as much booze and food as you can to socialise in work, and then like we talked about before this call, there seems to be more so than ever this progression of people similar to our age. I'm a bit older than you, but we don't need to touch on that. Who have gone from that kind of background to clicking like early 30s, mid 30s, and going, okay, I can't hack that pace anymore. And actually, it is making me feel like complete crap.
Mm.
And whatever direction they take, it's that first step in the door of what should I try? Is it something like functional? Is it tennis? Is it five-a-side? You know, that first pivotal moment. And if you said to your five-a-side version of yourself 2 years ago that you'll be doing Gary Brecker stomach supplement hacking, it's like unfathomable, isn't it? So,
No, no,
in
absolutely.
terms of what's your view on that kind of, especially in your sales function, and you're much closer to sales specifically
Yeah,
than I
yeah,
am.
yeah.
Talk me through your views of the progression in the market and the change in people's perspective and what you're seeing and how that's, because that's actually influenced what you're doing with your business now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think for when you're in a world like I am, you think everybody is into their health and fitness, right? And what I've
Yeah, yeah,
realized
yeah.
since the launch of sort of the new service, the new part of the business, is that there are a lot of people who aren't. So there's a lot of an education
Yeah,
piece. There's this
yeah,
fear factor. There's, you know, working out in public even is scary for people. I
yeah, yeah.
think I think well, everybody needs, and the reason that I do it, and we can move on to it, but really a very, very simple reason that I work out at the level that I work out and will continue to for forevermore, I think. And the challenges will just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the endurance required will
Mm.
just get higher. Is so that I have a switch off from work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's what the five-a-side gave me particularly.
yeah.
2 hours every week on a Tuesday and Thursday. I used to run around and my heart rate would be high and I'd just be thinking about making the right pass, making the tackle, not getting kicked by the, 40-year-old ex-semi-professional who is
Yeah,
still living in the glory days. Um,
yeah,
and it gave me that break. And everybody I used to, even 3 years ago, I used to say, that's why I do it. The
yeah,
fitness was nice,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it
yeah,
was the break. So some people get that from golf. Some
yeah,
people get
yeah, yeah.
bigger the concentration, and that's absolutely fabulous. Some people get it from meeting their mates in the pub, and
Mm-hmm.
that's great. So I think the certainly the message that I carry is I think people need that switch off and they need that
Yeah.
break, whatever that is. So reading a book, having a massage, falling asleep whilst you're having the massage. Some people would find that a waste of money. I don't. I go, and when I have
Mm.
a massage, I want to fall asleep. You know,
Mm-hmm.
particularly a relaxing one, obviously a sporting one, slightly different. You know,
If you're falling asleep at a sports one, then they're not doing their job
they're
right, I
not
don't
doing it
think.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's about having that switch off, and
Yeah.
that's why I do it. And what started to happen with me was the tennis didn't do it, so the football did it. The weight stopped doing it, so I needed to move into something that kept my mental attention
Mm-hmm.
for longer. And for me, Hyrox at the moment and the exercises around it um, are challenging enough that I cannot
Yeah.
think about anything else apart from that challenge
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and where I'm going to next. And all you're thinking about is getting through what you're having to get through. And also,
Mm.
you have to, particularly in the Hyrox events, you have to dig so deep because your body's saying, stop. I can't believe I've got
Yeah.
6 more runs to do and 6 more stations. You know, you're
Mm.
only 15 minutes into this and you're absolutely knackered. Nobody cares that you'll give up. Everybody
Yeah,
knows
yeah,
how
yeah.
hard it is. You have to fight those challenges consistently. Um,
Mm.
and it never gets any easier. So that's the thing I
Yeah.
think that I've learned is the five-a-side football at the period of time was really, really hard. I went back to play the same with the same group of guys about 6 weeks ago. It was still really, really hard,
Yeah.
but I just ran further, ran faster, burnt more calories.
Yeah.
It was still really hard. And I
Yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
that's the thing that everybody thinks I can't do that, but you can do it at your pace.
Yeah.
just do whatever you're doing at your pace. I think there was the Warrington Half Marathon on recently, which I pulled out of because of injury, but I went to watch,
Mm.
support my wife and support some other people.
Yeah.
The person who did it in 70 minutes, which is just scary fast,
Jesus. Yeah. Yeah.
still found it hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the person that did it at 2 hours 15 also found it very hard for them.
Yeah.
And I think that certainly the communities that I found around Hyrox and the functional fitness is nobody really cares how fast you do it.
Yeah.
It's just that you're doing it. I
Definitely.
think there are certain sports that, say that they're communities and they're not quite as community driven. But certainly the reason that I've chosen sort of functional fitness or HIIT style workouts as the weapon of choice for the new business is because of the inclusive nature of it, where you push
Mm.
yourself as far as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if the person next to you who's just focusing on getting through it as well at their own pace in their own time.
Yeah.
Um, and for me personally, it gives you an all-round body workout as opposed to just running or just lifting um,
Mm.
the team sports are great, but I think, like I said before, you can hide a little bit, and for me, they just weren't doing it anymore. So I think everybody
Yeah.
needs a little bit of a step in, but I think it's for try and get that mental release. I think and whatever
Yeah.
that is, you should get that. I think that's certainly the message that if it's golf, then it's golf. Golf's not going to keep you fit and healthy when you're in your 50s and 60s, unfortunately.
Mm.
I know the golfers, the pros are very fit, but they do an awful
Yeah.
lot of stuff outside of golf. Golf
Mm-hmm.
doesn't
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
them in
Yeah.
that shape,
It's a nice
not
add-on to get outside, but it's not the,
of
yeah, it won't be
course.
the thing that helps you
Golf
run a
doesn't
marathon.
look, Rory McIlroy doesn't look the way he looks physically because of golf.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
a guy in good. Tiger Woods didn't look the way Tiger Woods looked because of golf. He used to
Yeah.
do all different types of weight training and different cardio, which is what set him apart. He was more flexible, he was more powerful, he was fitter than everybody
Mm.
else in the 90s because he
Yeah.
came in that shape. So he was looking at the science of longevity, and obviously he's got some back problems, but he's still playing now. Longevity in
Yeah.
his
Yeah. Yeah.
sport and wanting to win, he made being fit in golf and not, smoking and having beers at the halfway house. He made that the norm. It's a bit like Arsene Wenger, what he did for Arsenal when he started looking at
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody's diet and how they supplemented and things in the 90s. That's why
Yeah.
they went on a run of consistently winning, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there is a correlation. I did a bit of I've been writing lots of articles, and there's a correlation, I think, between healthy mind, healthy body, and then, healthy pipeline, which is a bit of a strap line that we've got. There is definitely a
Yeah.
correlation there, but clarity in the mind and then test yourself physically and
Yeah.
naturally just feel better about yourself, have more confidence. But you don't need to jump straight into a high rocks or try and run a
Probably
start
don't do that. Yeah.
start off slow. But it's
Yeah.
amazing when we go to Birmingham at the weekend, there'll be guys and girls who, I think society would say they do not look fit, but they are participating. The guys will have their tops off. It's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing to see. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And because they are where they are on their journey and they're looking to
Yeah.
make change, for the
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And I think there's two big points for me that have come out of that. And I definitely want to go into function and how that's changed because of the way our industry's changed. But an important part is that switch off, because prior to me ditching the booze in January and you ditching it 5 years ago, my switch off was booze.
Yeah.
And that was the way I switched off. And I don't think that's not normal. I think a lot of people do that and did that and continue to do so. And you think it is that initial couple of glasses of red wine, and you're just like, oh, thank God. Especially as a solo founder or a freelancer or your own business owner, to be able to have something like your wife with a racing mind as well, having something that literally just goes, oh, and
Yeah.
within
Yeah.
10 minutes of sitting down and having it, you're going to switch off. But the compounding negative impact of that for me over years, and I'm sure for you over the years, hence you were like on the January 16th or whenever it was, 13th, no,
Yeah.
is that it stops working. And the negative impacts that come out of the switch off, short term still work, but it gets shorter and shorter and shorter, the amount of fun switch off time you have, and the anxiety and the unproductiveness of it. Everything, all of the negatives get bigger and the good stuff gets smaller with the drinking side of it and the eating like crap and all of that stuff. So indulging in sport instead of indulging in, or in, books, whatever it might be, as that switch off is so important for people like yourself and like me and like freelancers. And I think what you said about your, football worked but then didn't, tennis worked but then didn't, that's totally fine, because I think there's so much around people being scared to start in the first place because they're afraid that they won't like it. It doesn't matter. Just try everything. You'll find something. And what works now might not, you might find Hyrox in a couple of years isn't enough anymore. You might be doing ultras or something else. So
exactly. And I'm open to that and very triathlon curious at the moment. I can't swim.
Yeah, well, yeah. So you're going to have to learn if you if you want to do that.
Exactly. And I'm sure I can swim. I can physically swim. But
I know what you mean. No, yeah.
Right there. And I'm going to have to go and do lessons with the 4-year-olds. And I'll have to get over that, because that's what I want to do. And it might be a quite humbling moment for a minute, but it won't bother me at all. And I think it's probably because I've just got involved, and that level of confidence has sort of has shot up. But it's baby steps, I think, into it. And I think there was another question in there that I might have missed. Have I?
Yeah, well, I was going to touch on kind of the progression of the switch off element for individuals like us, and then the way that kind of
the alcohol. And I've done a lot of thinking about this, of why I drank, and I think drinking for me took me away from my reality, and I think that's what it does for everybody. And when you are sober, you are consistently within your reality, and you become a much stronger person because you can deal with your emotions. And I know lots of people who are doing Sober October at the moment, and the emotions that they're feeling, they're shattered.
Yeah, it is.
They're tired. They've
Exactly
been more physically active, but they're tired. But because their brain is dealing with more emotions by itself, and having to compute, not having that block out. I don't have any science to back that up, but that's certainly something that alcohol used to do for me. And I was in the mindset where I just thought it was cool, I think. What's happening now, and I think something that you touched on earlier, is it's now becoming cool not to drink. It's now becoming cool to have that discipline. And I don't think I'm cool enough to use the word cool, but
we're too old for that now.
By using it. But the point being is that it's changing now. 5 years ago when I told people, 4.5 years ago when I said to people I don't drink, it was a bit of a shock. Now nobody. They almost, I think, you start to develop a persona, like nobody questions it now. They almost like, of course you don't. So they find out about the business, they find out about the Hyrox, and then they invite me to the pub and I have a lime and soda, and they just go, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise, and nobody questions it. And I'm the first person, my wife drinks, I'm the first person to go out and say, let's go, let's go Friday night, let's go out for a meal, and then, give her the drinks menu and pour her a glass, order her a glass of wine. I'll get you a drink. I know exactly what you're getting, and when I go out with friends and family that drink, I'll be part of the rounds. Lime and soda it's not like they're 20p and everything else is £7. They are, they're still a few pounds each, so which I think is wrong, but it is what it is.
It is absolutely nuts, isn't it?
Bottles of sparkling water 5 years ago were like £1.50. They're now like £4.50. And it's like all the non-alcoholic cocktails. We were out at a gig on Monday night. My wife ordered a non-alcoholic cocktail. It was still £9 but years ago they didn't exist, or they were like £4. But now the restaurants and the bars need to monetize that, because there are more
Yeah.
people coming out not drinking. You know,
100%.
we're in the queue at the gig, and you can hear people ordering water, water, water. People
Mm-hmm.
carrying cans around, Pepsis, lemonades. The beer
Yeah, yeah.
drinkers were in the minority. It was a
Yeah,
Ben
yeah,
Howard, but
yeah. Not
but
Slipknot, but
yeah, exactly. But the beer drinkers were in the
yeah,
minority,
yeah. Yeah,
or at
yeah,
least
yeah.
one of the, say, what looked like a husband and wife.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He was having a beer, she was on the Pepsi. Maybe she was driving,
Mm.
or the other way
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
But the point being is that that whole go out, get lash thing, it just
Mm.
doesn't really happen anymore. And I think particularly people in their moving from when when the morning after stops being worth the night before,
Yeah.
I think that triggers in different people at different times.
Yeah.
But it tends to be, I think, in their early 30s.
Yeah.
And
Completely
that's what
agree.
I'm finding now. And the more I see about it, there's a guy that owns an agency in Leeds. I've forgotten his name, but he just did Andrew someone. He just did 12 months sober,
Mm.
and he's. I think he was talking about the benefits to his life. There
Yeah.
are one of my mates has stopped for about 7 weeks. 7 weeks ago, he was in Ibiza partying, like I used to party when I was 19.
Yeah.
He stopped, and I said to him, "You will not see a downside.
Mm.
You will. There is no downside to not drinking.
Yeah.
That is the scary thing about it. There isn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And
Definitely.
people have to be aware that they'll maybe lose some friends, or they'll be shot at. People will be
Yeah, yeah.
when I mean shot at, comment wise.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Get you. Yeah, yeah.
That's people projecting their own insecurities and their own feelings about drinking, or about somebody being able to stick to something, or having
Mm.
consistency in their life because they can't stick to something, or they don't have consistency in their life. And I think
Yeah.
it's definitely, I did a post about it that got quite a bit of traction. And we spoke about this, about alcohol's
Mm.
just allowed me, no alcohol has allowed me to, um, I believe, come across as if I've just got my shit together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's it. And I think then I think you're an instantly more saleable person,
Mm.
or your business is instantly more saleable.
Yeah.
If it fits into your lifestyle, get up early and you can have early morning meetings with clients. You've got stuff
Mm.
done before the rest of the world is waking up. If you can get up
Definitely.
and train and have a meeting before 9 a.m., you
Mm.
you're so much further along than anybody. And I think when I
Mm.
was starting the business a few months after stopping drinking, the confidence that I had and the clarity of mind, even after like 3-4 months, I was
Yeah.
able to say, I'm going to scale a consultancy, and we're going to have loads of people working with us and for us, and we're going to have loads of clients. And I just
Yeah.
knew it was going to happen,
Yeah.
because from a personal level, I knew where I was when I was drinking, and
Yeah.
just I knew there'd be an untapped potential. And I think I'm starting to see that now physically, that
Mm.
how far can I push my body beyond Hyrox and into triathlons and Ironman and things, and that's ultimately got to be the plan. But obviously,
Yeah.
it's got to fit around what you're doing from a lifestyle perspective, and training for an Ironman doesn't fit in now. It would be too much.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I think when you get it's about giving yourself the opportunity to know what you're like completely clean of
Oh,
the because you don't really know yourself if you've relied on booze as your downer for so long, and
no,
to give, and 30 days, I don't think like a dry Jan doesn't do that.
no.
I don't think you need a sustained amount of time to be able to go, holy shit, this is the cleanest mind I've had for so long, and this is actually who I am, actually, like, without anything to influence it. And that's a bizarre step
And
change, isn't it?
you've got to be comfortable in yourself. And I always said to people, I
Mm.
wasn't sure if I actually ever had a drink problem. I had an attitude problem.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fair.
But the other thing was I had to fall in love with myself again. That was the
Hmm.
big work that I did.
Yeah.
in the early days was I had to forgive myself for a lot of the shit that I'd said and done to people.
Yeah.
Ex-girlfriends, ex-bosses. I wrote a big
Mm.
list. I almost went through somebody who I know is a friend of mine who had a drug overdose, and he sort of was in sort of drug rehab. He said to me, whilst you didn't go, and I did go to a couple of AA meetings and realized they weren't for
Mm.
me. They were eye-opening, but they weren't for me. I did
Yeah, yeah.
read I did read the book cover to cover
Mm-hmm.
twice
Oh, did you? Wow.
in
Okay.
the first 3 months and took a lot of learnings from it. He said to me,
Mm-hmm.
what you seem to have done is gone through the 12 steps in about 3 months
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
So I did some healing, but it's all about forgiving yourself and all this type of stuff.
Mm.
And whilst I hadn't caused anybody any harm physically, I think, there were it you hold a mirror up to yourself very, very quickly when you're
Yeah.
not drinking.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly powerful. And I think, um, you know, when you feel comfortable in that space, and I still doubt myself now sometimes. Should I have said that? Did I say that in the right way? You
Mm.
still get that, but you're able to deal with those emotions a little bit better, I think.
Yeah.
And you still get tired, and you still feel run down. And
Yeah.
imagine that, drinking 2 or 3 times a week, and just all the science that's now come out. There was
Yeah.
there was no physical benefit to drinking at all. It would, obviously, I think we all know this. If it came out now as a drug, it'd be illegal.
Yeah. It is
You know?
nuts when you look at the intricacies of it. But I think so all of that is amazing from a personal perspective, and rejigging lifestyle from a personal progressive perspective. But what we talked about before, and what you're kind of trailblazing with function, is this progression in networking
Yes.
and our industry waking
Yeah.
up to it. And actually,
Yeah.
we're not a media Thursday anymore. We're now who's on retreats together, who's got this community vibe of Hyrox or F45 that I go to. So from your view and your perspective as someone who's in sales and obviously setting up function, firstly, tell us a bit about function,
Yeah.
um, and then tell us a bit about why you've shifted into that based on your perspective of the industry.
Okay. Cool. I might go one way then the other. So there's definitely
Okay.
Atlanta both. So function as a business has two parts to it. One being the consultancy, and one being the events-based service that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the consultancy since April 2020, and we
Mm-hmm.
work with B2B founder-led businesses, and we embed a commercial team, which is a fancy word for saying sales and marketing, into
Mm-hmm.
our clients' businesses, and we deliver growth and revenue. Okay, it's like think lead gen, multi-channel, but with somebody embedded within your business closing the deals as well. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nice. Okay.
through that, what we learned was a channel that we had to look at for all of our clients is events.
Mm-hmm.
The network, the beer and pizza networking, the agency freelancer meetups, all those types of things, the marketing meetups, whatever they might be, we had to analyze them all, attend them, and see if we could extract pipeline from them to deliver return on investment, to deliver revenue for our clients.
Yeah.
And I did that as my business as well. So I attended every single type of event you can imagine,
Yeah.
free, paid, groups, whatever it might be. They're broken. And they're
Mm-hmm.
really, really hard to get commercial ROI from. They're beer and pizza networking. They're people going off on jollies, really finger in the air. Am I going to get any ROI from this? And of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
because we work part time for our clients, everything we do has to be revenue generating. We don't have time for tea and cakes, fluffy meetings. We don't have time for
Yeah, yeah.
that. Another pipeline generation channel that we explored and have to explore is partnerships. So essentially,
Yeah.
say for example, you're an SEO freelancer, you should be partnering with a PHP dev,
Get
and
you.
you should be crossing opportunity between each other because you do not compete with each other, but you probably work with the same end ideal customer. That is
Yeah.
how I define a partnership. You can then go up in terms of agency, and you can go up or wider in terms of wider supplier network of, say, retail has hundreds of thousands or thousands, tens of thousands probably, different suppliers into retail, right? There's loads. They should all work together. The non-competing businesses should all work together, okay? That's a partnership. Now, we've run partnerships for ourselves. We do that very successfully. And we run it on behalf of our clients as well. They take a long period of time. Every single business owner that I've met over the past 4.5 years, referrals are their number one consistent source of lead generation. They're the highest lifetime value, and they're also the lowest cost per lead. So we've worked out a way of being more proactive with referrals, because most people are very, they sit and it's ad hoc. It comes in, they're not in control of it. Therefore, as a commercial director, I can't mathematically predict what's going to happen in 2025 with referrals. I can say over the past few years, we've had 8 and we've closed 3 of them, for example, but that's speculative at best. And if you're a good sales or marketing person, you can't be speculative, particularly when you're nailing your colors to the mast and you're saying, I don't know, we've got sort of a value-based pricing model. So we're going to close you £150,000 worth of revenue. Therefore, we want 45 grand to do that, as an example, right? Yeah. So I can only do that when I've got the data to suggest. So those 3 pipeline generation channels, and there's loads of others. The event-based business combines those 3. So over 3 days, the participants, who are all non-competing founders of B2B supply businesses, so they supply a certain industry or sector, get together and they network, open up their black books, open up their current clients, past clients, contacts to each other to deliver referred pipeline for the other 7 participants.
Yeah.
And because it's a new passion of mine, and it's a bit of a 2 fingers up to beer and pizza networking, we run functional fitness and healthy, positive lifestyle workshops, exercises, food, no alcohol, cold water dipping, ginger shot taking, ethos throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. Nice.
So it obviously very much appeals to the everyday athlete. It's the type of event that they've been waiting for. And it also appeals to people who want to do something a little bit different.
Yeah. No, I think it's.
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, it's just such a refreshing way to kind of embrace that connection and partnership model, because it's so easy to think I just need to go and get leathered with everybody and that's how we build relationships, because actually that's what we did, and it did work back in the day, because that's what everybody was doing. But I think we're in kind of a weird, and you might have more of an opinion on this, but we're almost in like a bit of a transitional phase within our world, where there are still a lot of and I was this 8 months ago, so I'm not preaching, I'm keen for people to see this and realize that we're just 2 normal people who are embracing being better, as opposed to evangelical lifestyle gurus. But there's this kind of meshing of people from the old school who are doing the old school networking, and then there's people who have really embraced this change. And so when you bring them both together in the traditional networking, relationship building environment, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because you don't walk into a room now at networking and everybody's leathered, but you don't walk in and everybody's Hyroxes. It's like a weird
no. And I think and I think that mishmash is okay. But what I would say to people is, and one of the reasons that we've set this up, is that people have less time, either out of desire, because they want to spend more time at home because of what's happened over the last few years and all that type of thing, or naturally just because they are super busy. What I would say to people is hand select the types of networking that you go to. In my opinion, a way to do that is to understand who is going to be in the room before you
Mm-hmm.
go, so that you can go with a researched conversation. So instantly you can start to open doors that will benefit you commercially. Now, that's, I think, of everything through a commercial lens.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Whereas some people might feel that they have the time for a bit of a jolly. But certainly and I'm just, like you said, just an everyday person that's sort of living this, is my circle of influence, and the people that I now would class as being the closest to me right now are people that do very, very similar things to me. So what I would
Mm.
like to do is go away with people that are positive influences, that are doing better things than me, or they've
Yeah,
maybe just joined a Hyrox gym and they're going to do their first one in May next
yeah,
year. I would like to go away with people like that. And I
yeah,
know, or I would like to go networking with people like that. Somebody that had something in common with.
yeah.
Because even though I'm a Manchester United fan, if you started talking about Manchester United to me now, it would bore me. 10 years ago, I'd have talked about it, but that's because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
all we ever talked about.
yeah.
I think the word community
Mm-hmm.
is getting overused, but communities are all rooted in, they have a solid foundation of which everybody believes in, for example.
Yeah.
And I think cyclists just like other cyclists. It's
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
they
It's true.
almost
Yeah, yeah.
just want to like cyclists.
Yeah.
Golfers like other golfers.
Yeah, yeah,
And basically, part of the event side of the business is, if you could choose your partners, people that you didn't compete with, but you wanted to introduce your clients to,
yeah.
would that
Mm.
be, not necessarily non-drinking, but let's go with it, would that be a
Mm.
non-drinking individual who works out really hard and is very disciplined in other areas of their life?
Yeah.
Or would it be, the guy down the pub that's a serial networker that, for me, I know the type of individual that I would want to introduce to my clients, because it
Mm.
has a direct image on me,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. If they
Yeah.
turn up and do a shit job, I can't stop that. I can't
No.
stop that, but I can introduce, and every person, every business, every freelancer has had situations where they feel that they maybe did a good job, but the client didn't, right? That's
Yeah.
that's
God,
just
yeah. Nature of the beast.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
everywhere. But I would guess that the people that are consistent in lots of areas of life and consistently pushing themselves are people that are sort of slightly more inspirational, and that's the whole
Mm-hmm.
idea behind the events that we're doing, is that you will be surrounded by like-minded founders,
Mm.
senior leadership teams who have an interest and a passion in health. Whether they've stopped drinking or not is irrelevant, but
Yeah,
they are
yeah, agreed.
pushing themselves at some point, whether it's couch to 5K or they're doing marathons in sub 3 hours. It all doesn't matter either. And the
Mm.
inclusive nature of the functional fitness F45 Hyrox style workouts mean that anybody can come at no matter what stage of their athletic journey that they're on, but everybody will find inspiration, because either they'll be the person that everybody wants to hear from because they've been doing it
Mm-hmm.
for 10 years,
Yeah, yeah.
or um, that person will find inspiration in sharing their story with the other people there as
Yeah,
well. And I
agreed.
think there's some amazing people that are coming to the events. There are some fairly well known people within this sector who take their health and lifestyle very, very seriously within the
Mm-hmm.
digital marketing, creative, and tech space. So
Mm-hmm.
when I can, I'll let people know, but they're coming and they're going to share their story, and I'm so excited. But they also see the
Mm.
business development possibilities, and they want
Mm.
to develop their business or develop their client's business with other people that have similarities and common ground to them, because I've got a client that does a load of Hyrox stuff. We meet at 7 a.m. every Friday to have our weekly sort of commercial catch up.
Yeah.
He talks about training and things like this. Most of the time he's in the gym when we're having the
Yeah.
call. We have that in common. He knows what I'm going to go through on Sunday. He'll WhatsApp me, no doubt, on Sunday morning. Good luck. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
And you've got that common ground. And I think, and you're, you know, I think it's all about community and connecting with people.
Yeah.
And I think I personally would connect with somebody that is doing something really beneficial for their mind, for their body, over
Yeah.
somebody who wasn't. But at the same time, I wouldn't judge. I wouldn't judge somebody. And I've had situations recently where I've heard people say about me, and these are sort of friends of friends and things, but guys obsessed with it. But that's because I took my own food to a party.
Yeah.
But I
So
didn't
what?
judge. I didn't judge them for having 10 beers and
Yeah.
unlimited amount of cheese, straw, and dips. I really don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you do you, and I think
Mm.
if anybody does decide to make a real health conscious decision, you've got to be willing to know that and not take it personally that you're gonna get some comments. But
Some flack.
if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
if you can do it with a group of people, you're not going to be the odd one out one way or the other. And I think that's
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
problems with networking is you have no guarantee that you go and find some people that are doing the same things as you week in, week out. Whereas hopefully
Mm.
our events, we hand select people that want to do that.
Definitely. And I think going back to a few points ago when you were saying about, things are going to go wrong because we work with people, that's what happens. But these what seem to be and are really hard lifestyle shifts. Like they're really hard. And I'm not saying everyone has to go sober. I just did because I knew that was the biggest prohibitor for me. You were similar, your overall lifestyle health, etc. It's a prohibitor of moving forward in your career and as a founder. By making those hard decisions, it makes the harder times so much more not easy but straightforward to navigate. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't take stuff half as personally as I did in business as I did before. And having hard conversations with clients, it's just kind of it's much more like this, like if your emotions are not all over the shop.
Yeah,
So, and by taking those what seem to be almost impossible decisions at the start, 6 months down the line are revolutionary in how you deal with hard situations in business.
I agree. And I think you've almost got a memory of how you dealt with it the last time with a clear mind, you
Yeah.
know, and you improve and improve and improve and improve. And I
Yeah.
commented on somebody's LinkedIn post this week about having those hard conversations. And I think
Mm.
what you can do when you are clear-minded, in whatever way you get that,
Yeah.
is you can start to trust yourself and trust the way that you deal with the situation. Whereas, for you and I, when we're on the back of a hangover or something like that, I was worried about having the conversation. I was still worried
Yeah.
about last night. I was unsure exactly how I was going to deal with it. I was unsure when my level of anxiety was going to spike during
Mm.
that meeting and when it wasn't. I was going to unsure. I
Yeah.
was unsure. Am I coming across as looking tired, feeling tired? Did
Yeah.
they know that I was out last night? All those things affect just that clarity of communication, essentially.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And it's that you become much more self-aware in all the wrong ways
Yeah,
when you aren't clear-minded. So to
yeah,
rid yourself of all of that, you give yourself the chance to be yourself and
yeah,
understand those situations and work out. And as you said, you have such a more capable um, way to analyze those situations,
yeah,
because if you're under a cloud of and we keep saying booze because that's, I guess, mutually relatable, but it could be crap food, it could
yeah,
be anything.
yeah,
When you have that as an added factor into business decision making and client relation management and all of the other stuff that goes with work, you can't truly know how you're going to deal with a specific situation because it's being hampered by external factors. And if
yeah.
you strip them back, then you get to do, what you said about truly analyzing those situations and making yourself better.
Yeah, and then you I think I've said it a couple of times, you start to trust yourself, then you start to know yourself, then you can start to find
Mm,
yourself as a person and as a business owner, and then as an individual, which bleeds beyond business and into
yeah.
personal life and family life. And I think you know you become interesting for your consistency, and people
Mm,
want to find out a little bit more. And then if you've got the what is amazing as well is that clarity of mind, when people start to see it, they start
yeah.
to get, and the right people start to get
Yeah. Yeah.
envious in
Yeah.
the right ways,
Yeah.
and you start to influence people. You start to be a
Mm,
central point of influence. I've got two clients eating the same food that I eat for lunch.
yeah. Yeah. I love that. I've written down interesting for your consistency, because consistency is absolutely not something that's been a word that I've associated with myself for
I
years.
never.
And probably this is the first year. And it's true.
I think people were completely unsure about which guy was going to turn up.
Yeah. Yeah. And so are you. Yeah. Yeah.
So was I.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
consistency
100%.
is key, and then consistency in the training bleeds into it as well.
Yeah.
That you don't need to.
Mm,
I think people think you've got to turn up and be running 10K in sub 50 minutes or whatever it is straight away.
yeah.
Every single runner that I've met knows how long it will take to get to certain periods. Certain
Yeah. Definitely.
benchmarks that you set yourself.
Yeah. And I think the kind of one of the more final points to bring us back to the self development, or one of the myths to kind of debunk of the self development element, is that not having enough time. Because yes, 100%, if you're training for a marathon or an Ironman or whatever, that's different. But and I'm sure you can relate to this as well, the amount of time I've got back
Oh,
in my life from changing lifestyle is phenomenal. I work
yeah,
less hours now than
yeah,
I ever have, but the
yeah,
hours that I work are probably 10 times more productive and
absolutely.
effective and thought through. And so it's not that you don't have time, you just have no idea how little time you've got when you're in that heady kind of haze.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think even if you didn't have sort of the haze that we had through alcohol, um, and I don't know if you'll go back to it. You're being very,
Mm,
I think you're being great at saying, one step at a time and stuff. But I think you've seen some clarity, probably a conversation for another time. I'm not sure if you'll go back. So I do say we, because I'm 100. There is no
yeah,
way I'll go back.
that's
It's not even
amazing.
a thing that comes up.
Yeah,
Um, But that prioritization, and somebody asked me about it the other day. I could show you my calendar for November. I highlight in orange workouts that I've got, gigs like I had on Monday night. The
yeah.
stuff for me goes in first.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that is out of core traditional office hours, but we are also, and
Yeah,
I'm certainly not, and we're moving away from it as an industry, well, as a country, I think, um, is that sort of thought of factory working. I think people work in
mm,
bursts a little bit more now. Um, and some of the orange highlighting is like tomorrow morning at 9:30, I'll be at a class because that suits me.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I'll be up early, do some work, take a break, and then I'll be back to it for late morning, and that's the way that I work. But the prioritization comes from when you really, really want to do something, and I
yeah.
think and I think people have got to remember, certainly from a health and fitness point of view, is that it is meant to be hard.
Yeah, yeah. You're meant to feel like crap whilst it's happening.
It's meant,
Simple as.
it's meant to be sore. I mean, my wife
Yeah,
and I have banned the words "I'm sore" from our house because that's the only things we'd
yeah,
ever. How are you? I'm sore. You
yeah.
know, it's meant to be. It's meant to be hard.
Mm,
And people, when you factor in recovery and all that type of stuff, it really does spiral. But I
mm,
think the point, prioritize whatever you need to prioritize. And I certainly think that what we're going to do on our events is
mm.
share with people how to have that balance between work, family, and health, and
Yeah, yeah,
how
yeah.
they can do that and how they can fit it in. Because it is about prioritization, but some people might not have a supportive spouse or that, and
Mm,
that does make it more challenging. I spoke to somebody
yeah,
about that. I'm not lucky because I knew that she would be like this, but Emma does the same things I do. She's into Hyrox, she trains, we go to the same
Yeah.
classes. If you don't have a partner that is like that, then you've got a situation to manage, but you
Yeah.
shouldn't hold your own health and fitness back because of that. You should obviously be
Yeah.
able to communicate why it's important to you and your family and longevity. And
Hmm.
I said to you before, the whole reason I do this is because I want to be hard to kill when I'm
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I'm
Love it.
older, and I really, really mean that. And Emma's on that
Yeah.
journey with me. But there is a way through prioritization, good communication with family. Different people have different things to juggle with kids and things that we don't have yet. But the point is that even when the kids do come, they will fit into our lives. I met
Mm.
a couple the other day that both do Ironman and ultras, and they've got three
Yeah.
kids. They still do Ironman and ultras because it's
Yeah.
important. Those kids are
Yeah.
great, by the way. They're not
Yeah. Yeah.
neglected.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
neglecting them or anything. And they've both got big jobs and they
Yeah.
spend 20 hours a week training each. And they
Yeah.
still do it because it's important to them. So
Yeah.
there are ways of doing it. There are ways of
Yeah.
doing it. It's just about prioritizing how much does it really matter to you as a business owner.
Yeah.
You can make all the money in the world, but you can't take it with you.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, well, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that whole, I think the word sacrifice is a bit misleading in those lifestyle changes as well, because you very much feel like you're sacrificing a lot in the beginning days, but the stuff that you get in replacement of these supposed sacrifices
hmm,
is like next level. It's a whole,
hmm.
a level of epiphany that you can't imagine you could ever have until you actually go and do it.
Yeah, and I don't think and the other thing, I think people talk about costs of gym memberships and things like that, which can be
Mm.
expensive. I I don't think anybody should, or I don't think anybody does really regret spending a pound on their health.
No, 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 no.
And, going back to the Gary Brecker stuff and the methylation test, they are not cheap,
No.
but for my wife, it's been life changing. So what's a few
Yeah.
£100 for life changing information? What's
Yeah.
a few £100 every month to live to be in your 70s, healthy and fit, and being able to play with your grandkids and go traveling,
Mm.
put that luggage above on the plane and stuff. That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
important. That's why I'm doing this now.
Hmm.
Um, in my mid 30s. So
Yeah.
it's about prioritizing of where are you now, where do you want to be.
Yeah.
Some people are fortunate enough to be able to plan for retirement. It's exactly the same, but with your health. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
why put money away that you can access when you're 65 if you
Yeah.
can't use it? So
Yeah.
don't plan for retirement if you're not being physically active. Is really what I'd say. Use it all now. You know.
Yeah. 100%. No, I couldn't agree more. So I guess to sum things up, because we've had crack it, and there's so many other tangents that my brain was going a million miles an hour of other things that we could talk about. But I guess the important things for your audience, my audience, kind of potential clients, freelancers, everybody as an individual have been the key priority or key topics, takeaways from this have been the impact of lifestyle change on you as an individual
Yep.
and mindset progression, whether that be as a freelancer or someone in a role. It doesn't
Yep.
matter, it's you as an individual. The second is the progression of the way that business relationships are being built now, out of the beer and pizza connections and into the networking as you've seen it, the Hyrox events. It doesn't have to be a 3-day Hyrox retreat. It can be going for a walk and having a meeting outside.
Course.
It's,
It's
under the
all, it's
spectrum.
all, it's all better. It's all a step
It's all
forward.
exactly. It's all better, small steps. So to leave people with a bit of a practical thing to take away, because one thing that we've both discussed as well is how we absolutely do not preach about this stuff. We're not
No,
preachers, we're just
no.
people who are embracing very different things, who have enjoyed, faffing a lot in our 20s. So are now kind of embracing a very different route to life. So what would you give as some practical tips for someone who's on the fence with this kind of stuff, has maybe seen people on LinkedIn and thought, not a chance, I could do that? What would you
Hmm.
say to those people in that mindset right now?
Start off doing something that you enjoy. So if you know that you enjoy something, you used to play tennis, used to have golf lessons,
Yeah.
go and do that, and
Yeah.
start to develop that. Um, Set a goal
Mm.
and put it way in advance. So I want to do a 10K in September 2025. You could
Yeah.
do a 10K in January probably, but set a goal and ask somebody to come and do it with you.
Yeah.
Brother, sister, family
Yeah.
member, team member at work. Should we do this together? And then you
Mm.
have an accountability partner,
Yeah.
and start off small and enjoy it. You have to enjoy it. You're not going to stick at
Mm.
anything you don't enjoy, whatever that is.
Yeah.
The nutrition side is a whole other world.
Yeah. Agreed.
If you're interested in data, go and dig around in. But start listening to some podcasts and some audiobooks about people that are talking about what's happening in the body.
Yeah.
Because it affects everything, particularly the stomach, like you said,
Yeah.
and go, and if it piques your interest, then start off small, and make some small
Yeah.
changes,
Yeah.
and that'll grow. But yeah, you've got to enjoy it. You've got to find it interesting. But once I believe, and the people that I've met now, once that fire ignites, you
Mm.
it just starts burning brighter and brighter and brighter in your own life.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that is absolutely nails it. And not to hijack your point as well, but the group mentality is a big
Yeah,
thing, I think. And to not be scared of communities like Hyrox or F45.
no,
They do look a bit intimidating maybe from the outside, but man alive, they're not at all. And when you've got
no,
someone
no.
else next to you feeling it too, it,
Yeah.
it really helps keep you
Yeah,
going.
absolutely, absolutely. But go to the first class with a friend,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Yeah. No, I agree.
easy step.
Nice. Amazing. Well, on that note, then, we've covered an awful lot, but I think there's some really good stuff in there. Relatable. I think that's the real key thing. The whole point of the interim podcast is authentic advice, authentic tips, authentic guidance from people who've actually done it,
Mm.
as opposed to preaching about it. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat about it, because I know you're super passionate about it, and
Oh
it
yeah,
was something that came out of our call last week, which was fab. I think the way you're approaching the kind of trailblazing with Function is absolutely incredible. I think that's going to be mega, and I can't wait to see Function's journey. And yeah, thank you very much for spending so much time chatting to me about
no,
all
thank
things lifestyle.
yeah, no, thank you, and yeah, I think it's great your podcast, and I've seen a couple of the other episodes as well. I think they're fabulous. So hopefully, a couple of people pick some good bits out of this one.
Yeah, nice one. All righty. Well, thank you very much, Guy. And I'll link to the Gary Brecker bits and pieces in the bio, so people can take a look at it. And have a link to Hyrox as well, because you never know, we might inspire a couple more folk.
Never know. If anybody wants to chat about it, LinkedIn's the easiest place to find me.
Yeah, awesome. I'll let them know that as well. Nice one. Well, thank you very much, Guy, and have a good rest of your week.
Thank you. Cheers, Jenny.